Hello, Michael Rataj, Ball Brain Creative, here at the braincast with Vince Rubino from Fox in a Box. We're here at his escape room in Chicago at the Dearborn station, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. We met at a networking event through SBAC, which is how I find most of my business connections. I think the type of people that attend those events we're all motivated. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always great to make those connections. I've had so many good collaborators, so that's where this came in. I'm intrigued by the escape room because I just love the idea of them. I think I've always been a horror movie fan, so now that they've able to bring that to the real life, I think it's a great thing. So how about you tell me how you got into this?
Okay. I first heard of escape rooms back in 2012. A friend of mine who I had worked with was telling me that I would absolutely love it. It'd be the coolest thing ever. And he's like, oh yeah, and you're locked in a room and you've got 1 hour to escape. And I'm like, so how much does this cost? And explain, I'm like, okay, so I am paying to be locked in a room and then escape. That's just stupid. So skip forward a few years, and I was on sabbatical with my family. We were taking a year off of life in Silicon Valley, and whatever we did, someone had a beef with it. They just didn't have fun. They were like, "Oh, what was this?" It was
right.
Everybody. It was kids. It was traveling with kids. That's life. Until we had some rainy day in Novi Sad, Serbia, like the third largest city in Serbia, and it's miserable. And we're looking at TripAdvisor and like, okay, great. There's a monastery and there's a fortress. We've just spent the last 6 months looking at monasteries and fortresses across all of Europe. This is nuts. What is this escape room thing? Can't be that bad. People seem to love it. So we went in. Changed my life. We absolutely loved it. All the kids are like, this is great. My wife is like, this is great. I'm thinking, this is great. I'm like, wait, at some point, I got to face real life and I got to go back to work. And I'm like, why don't we do this instead? So when we came to the end of the sabbatical, actually the rest of the sabbatical, we did a lot more escape rooms around Europe because in Europe they had really taken off earlier than in America. And they were actually, frankly, much better escape rooms than you have in America or had in America. So after doing all these escape rooms, we decided this is what we want to do. So I called up a bunch of them, called up my favorite one, and said, hey, we want to do these rooms. And the guy's like, oh, Vince, it's great. We're going to do a franchise. It's going to be huge. And I'm like, dude, you're in Novi Sad, Serbia.
Right.
How serious of a franchise is this going to be? It's like, oh, come on. We're paired with someone in Vienna. It's really all coming along. And I'm like, okay, your rooms are really cool. We'll give it a shot. So we signed the papers, we're moving along, and we're trying to find all these locations, and it's hard. And then I come to Chicago, and for some reason in Chicago it was really easy, or at least it was easy compared to California.
Easier, yeah.
So we're like, let's do it in Chicago, make this thing happen. So I found this location down here in Dearborn Station. It was awesome. The good news is by the time we got to that with the franchise realized the name Room Escape and the name of a city was going to be impossible to protect intellectual property-wise.
Right.
So by the time we were ready to open, we were named Fox in a Box, which is just like a great name. People love it. They love the alliteration of it. We have this brilliant logo.
Right.
And people just have a good time with it. So that's how Fox in a Box came about. That's how Fox in a Box Chicago came about. And we were what I think of as the very first escape room that has been operating continuously in the city, and one of the very first in the whole Chicago area. So
awesome.
It's been really fun, and I've absolutely loved doing this.
That's right. So that was so you were a transplant to Chicago here, right, from California?
So I was actually born in Chicago and grew up here. Went to school down in Joliet. So always loved, coming to the big city. You get all excited. There's all this thrill going on. So I always wanted to live in Chicago. That was one of my things. But I was a software engineer. And back in the days in, the 90s, software engineering, it's like if you can go to Silicon Valley, you go to Silicon Valley because that's where it's all happening.
Right.
So that's why I ended up in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley for a long time. But the fact is, my true love has always been Chicago, and yeah, I'm still just thrilled every time I get here.
Yeah. Well, you get to walk into such a gorgeous office. It's got to just be, how did this happen? Because it is the dream. I mean, just to get something in the Loop.
Yeah.
If you live in Illinois, like to have a building in the Loop that you could call yours is such an accomplishment.
It's awesome. And it's funny too, I joke around this being, the Chicago dream, because I've got this basement.
Right.
And it's filled with all these toys. And everybody comes to play and has a great time in my basement.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is living the dream.
Right. Yeah.
For Chicago to have the basement. I mean, it's like I got to do Wayne's World, except actually be cool.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Sometimes I like to go out to Aurora and get the full Wayne's World experience, but here you can do the downtown city version of Wayne's World.
Right. That's funny. I didn't even think about that too. But yeah, this is the ultimate man cave. Locking people up. Good luck. So what I liked about your story too is being in the tech world and then coming into something that's hands-on. I think part of your story, finding the connection with family into some kind of actual experiential thing, I think that's important. And I think it's the same kind of article that I think it was something about human connection, human contact is a luxury. Like, that's true. And so I think so many more experiential things that we can provide for people will just create so many more stories for them, so many more positive experiences and things that they can, just use and hopefully inspire them for obviously more connection.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything? What have you noticed, I guess, with businesses that have maybe tried to use it for team building or other people that maybe seem skeptical to begin with, or how that played out? Can you think of some stories?
Yeah, no, people really have enjoyed discovering this as a team building thing. We get these groups. I mean, we all know how team building works in this world. It's like, you gotta go to the thing and we're gonna do it. Is there gonna be drinking there? No, there's no good drinking. Why are we doing this? And people come in with a certain attitude and then you do it, and most team building things are like, yeah, that's cool. We had a good time with that. And you think, oh, I should do that again. And that's about as far as energetic as you get. Usually after we bring in people to do team building events, we get people bringing in their family, like that weekend. They'll come in with a group of their friends the next weekend.
That's cool. Because
they have such a great time doing it. It isn't for everyone. You will occasionally still have a person who's like, no matter how fun this thing is, they could be on a roller coaster and they're like, oh, okay, here we go again. And, it's like some people just don't enjoy things, but the vast bulk of people really are like, oh my God, this is so different. And the thing is we put so many different elements to try to pull in people wherever they are, that it's very different from even other escape rooms. Like when we're designing the rooms, we're always looking at different intelligences. Like you might have heard of Howard Gardner, multiple intelligences theory. So our puzzles are designed in a way that you're pulling from different intelligences. So no single person in the group is going to figure it all out. It is just impossible because nobody has all those intelligences.
Right.
And it's funny because you even see this weird behavior where you've got a group who's very mono-intelligence and they do horribly. And it's like, you're just like, oh my God, you feel so bad. It's like we had this group and it was like these 3 PhDs and 2 master's candidates, and they were all super freaking smart, but they were so targeted. It's a very tight space. They couldn't think out of the box at all. The mechanical puzzle was just like total mess, and they were super frustrated out of it. And then you get these other groups where, you got some super, the super traditional intelligence, problem-solving, logical guys, and then they got a guy who's like, he's like a bricklayer. And he's like, oh yeah, I got this.
Right.
Let's see what the problem is.
Yeah.
And the group is like, oh my God, we never knew you were so smart.
Yeah.
And it breaks down all of these barriers that are sort of artificially placed in this world.
Right.
Because you're getting everybody out of their zone, putting them in a new space, and everybody's just bringing what they got. And our puzzles are designed to pull all sorts of different pieces from here and there, so everybody has a chance to shine. And that is something that is so cool, because it really just brings the whole team together. So like if you've got a group of people, don't know each other, you're trying to ice break, this is an incredible icebreaker. Yes, you can bring them all to a bar, we can all stand around and do our elevator pitches, but it's like, really? Is that getting everybody out of their box? No. That's just putting them in the same sales box as other people, and the people who don't talk to anyone are still going to be in the corner, and they're going to be like, you know. You put people in this environment, everybody's got to just do what they do, and they hope that it works. And the nice thing about our rooms is they're designed in a way that everybody has something that whatever they're bringing might just work. So it's kind of cool.
I just had a conversation yesterday with someone where I'm realizing that so much of business is like music and bands, and hearing you say that is really, I feel like the musician and band thing is a great analogy for all of this, because you really need the bass player and the guitarist and the drummer, and they're just going to be in their lane and they'll do those things well, but you still need the other 2 members or 3 to make a cohesive creative thing. So that's cool to incorporate that. So how does that, as far as coming up with the puzzles, how do you guys, how does that envelop?
Okay, so the puzzles, sort of the initial room design, the game design, game flow, all of that, we get that primarily from the franchise. So the franchise works on those ideas, and they workshop them over the course of 3 to 6 months, work up the theming, work up the basic artifacts that go into the room, the puzzle flow, and so on. And then they work up a demo of it, prototype. If that goes well, they keep tweaking it, and then they'll have their first official location. Usually at that point, I'll make a point of going wherever the first official location is, and I'll play it, see what it looks like, see if it's a room I want to bring into our operation. If it is, then we start ordering that, and then I go start meeting scenic designers. So one of the things that I think is critical is that it is really immersive. The franchise's focus sort of is after gameplay, basic theming, story, puzzles. They kind of are like, that's beyond our scope. So in my mind, I've got to bring a good scenic designer. So like our latest room, which is the Zodiac room, we brought in a scenic designer who works at the Field Museum, and she just did outstanding work. She had done movies, she's worked for HBO, has done real hardcore scene design. And that, I think, brought a real special element to the room, so that when people play Zodiac, they're super excited, because like they're, oh my God, wait, I thought we were in this place. Why is it all, where am I again? How did this happen? And they're completely thrown off.
That's cool.
About what just happened. I mean, so we brought in Zodiac as a later room and took out an old room. One of my game masters who worked here for a year, and had left, he came back to play Zodiac and went through the room, came out, and was like, Vince, that room was so cool, it was so awesome. It's lovely. And I'm like, do you realize that was in the lab? What? Are you kidding? I was like, that can't be the same room. I'm like, run 100 games in that room, and that's the same room? Oh my God, that was awesome. Who did you design? She's incredible. So, I mean, that's the thing. From now on, I know I'm going to get professional set designers and make sure that the rooms are done top notch, because people just absolutely love when we get the immersion right, like we did when we did the Zodiac room.
So the inspiration, and this came down from the part of the franchise had the idea, and then you were able to use that to create your own immersive experience with it?
Yep, exactly. So we get the game design, we get the themes, we get the puzzle flow, we get the all of those pieces that have to do with the game, the technical aspect, those come from them, and actually several other locations had worked them out. But when it came time for us to do it, I looked at my space and I thought, the direction that others went with, it's not going to work in our space. It just doesn't make sense for it. So we came up with a different interpretation, and then working with my set designer and the same pieces that we had to technically, we made a very different looking room with a very different feel. So when you start this, it's kind of eerie, but it's not like bloody and dripping with things like some of the others in the franchise were. Philosophically, we wanted to just put people on their back foot rather than knocking them over.
Right.
And that's what I think helps make this room that much more compelling, because it's kind of a disturbing space when you just get going, but it's not like horrifying space when you start. So that was really important to make this room sing.
Yeah, that's, as you're saying that is true. That's like the subtleties of art. Like, because if you're just bashing someone over the head of like horrific, then it's like, okay, I get it, and then you ease into that, for lack of a better word. But if you're easing into the creepiness, then that's even more unsettling, because you're like, why do I feel weird?
Exactly.
Why am I uncomfortable?
Yeah, and it's not just that you're handcuffed, because that's just something that's going to make people feel uncomfortable, but you escape that quickly.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's a lot more to escape, and you need a lot more time in the room before you get that exit.
Right. What was either the longest running room or the favorite one that you have now, aside from this?
Okay, so I'd say the longest running room is actually the very first escape room I played, and that is the bunker. So on that rainy day in Novi Sad in like February 2014, January 14, I'm still not sure of the dates, I played the bunker, and that was the one that blew me away. It's funny, I've even got some pictures on my refrigerator of us playing the bunker, and it is so boring looking. But at the time, we were like so excited. We're like, it's so cool! It's so cool! And I look at the picture now and I'm like, oh my God. This is just like, there's just a clock on the wall, and we got a couple of random things there. And yeah, our immersion has gotten way better since 2014. But it was the first room, and it's still an awesome room. It's definitely the room I recommend most to brand new players of escape rooms. It is fairly approachable. It's a good size room. It's mostly linear, but it goes parallel late in the game. So people are getting more comfortable, and then when it parallelizes, they're like, okay. So it's a really good sort of intro to the escape room world. But it's also a really good room. It's got good gameplay, people enjoy it, have fun with it. The only downside I'd say to the bunker is that, Chicagoans hear about it and they're just like, Cold War bunker. That doesn't sound interesting.
Right.
It's something that doesn't sing to what I think of as the American psyche. Like when Americans, I think about their dream scenario of what they want to do, they're like, oh yeah, I want to win the lottery. I want a lottery winning game. And it's like, okay, let's be serious. Let's come up with something that's achievable other than, you look at a screen like, my life just changed.
Right.
And then they think about it and they're like, I know. I want to break into a bank,
right.
Get this, all the money and just play around with hundreds of dollars of bills and stacks, just like we see in the movies. Because that's what people really want to do. And that's what we can offer them at Box & Box, is that experience to be the dudes who just broke into the bank and get the big wad of money. And they're like, they get to handle it. It's really cool. And yeah, when people think about what they want to do, it's all about robbing a bank. So this is our most booked room. Basically what I think of as unassisted booking. People have no idea if the room's good, bad, whatever. They want to do an escape room, but the bank room is the room they book first. So,
well, this is. I can only say this because I'm an ex-trader, but this could also be your clientele if you're in the trading district. So maybe robbing banks is that's their thing.
That could be it as well. We did get some folks out from the Fed who've played, and they had fun.
That's awesome.
We had a lot of repeat traffic from the Fed folks.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, there's something about a bank that I think it just answers a lot of our psyche questions, or what we think will answer people's problems and equate to happiness. So I wonder if that's part of the brief glimpse of, oh, now I have $10 million and I can pay everything off, and I don't know. But just in general, from like art to music to movies, and this was going back to you stating the picture in the bunker being plain.
Right.
We get numb to that first. There's the newness thing that's exciting, and so just doing a bunker room or a bank, just robbing a bank is exciting. And then to do it again, or just new expectations, is when you need to start adding additional things to make the experience even more, from the newness factor to like, okay, we're bored of people jumping out, like the haunted houses thing.
Yeah.
Started people with silly face paint to now 6 floors of people with like real knives or stuff, real makeup and doing stuff. So I guess I don't know if that was a statement, but I don't know what question I wanted to ask from that. Have you noticed that as far as building things out, how much, it sounds like a lot of it actually has to do with you, like set designers and finding new things for it. Does that come out of yourself kind of experiencing the rooms and feeling like, oh, this would be fun? Or is that part of your game master or part of customer feedback to like start adding additional elements to a room or elements of excitement?
I think it's actually all of those things. I believe that me, my staff, my contractors they hire as designers, we're constantly thinking of ways to delight our customers. And you do have to keep stretching things, moving the ball forward to make sure that you have those wow moments there. It's still very much a growing in a new industry, and the idioms are still being figured out. People know there's certain things, oh yeah, there's going to be a black light in the room. There's certain idioms that are kind of war horses, but for people who've not experienced escape rooms before, that's totally exciting. They're like, what is this purple looking light that doesn't really brighten things? What do we do with it? And it's really fun to design rooms or make rooms happen, because I don't design the rooms, I don't design the puzzles, but I feel like I bring together all the parts to make it happen. So, how do you do something that works for someone who has never done one of these things and delights them, and also for someone who's done 100 rooms and delights them? And that is such a very hard thing to do. And everyone's coming in from totally different perspectives. When I think about escape rooms are, they're kind of like books. They can be almost anything. All they really share is you're in a space, you've got 1 hour to solve a series of problems. That's all that ties escape rooms together. Escaping is not really a thing. You're not necessarily even in a room. I mean, I've seen people who are like, we've got this escape room in a box, and but it's still sort of those things. And actually, even the 1 hour rule is not really a rule, because there's a lot of 45-minute escape rooms running around there, and there's a lot of business reasons why. And then there's people who have like 5-minute escape rooms. Is it really an escape room if it's 5 minutes? In my mind, it's more like an arcade machine at that point, especially because it's often replayable. So it's more like it's an immersive, manipulatable space for 5 minutes. I don't think of it as an escape room. Escape rooms, in my mind, you have to spend some real time with it. There should be some movement. There should be a lot of thought. It's got to be kinesthetic. It's got to be multisensory. It should use your brain, and I believe it should use multiple people. I've done rooms solo before. Don't particularly recommend it. Even good rooms solo, it's kind of like, this is really something to do with your friends. When you do it with your friends, you guys are all excited, you have a great time. So, I mean, when I think about how to make sure you have a great escape room experience, is find a place that does private escape rooms. Public escape rooms can be fun, but it's a little bit different when you're with another group and they're having a great time, you're not. Because they're kind of taking over the whole room and you're not part of it. Or vice versa, you might be having the absolute ball, they're not. It's just like, you don't want that to happen. And then there's always this weird awkwardness afterwards. We're like, hey, we like saved the world. It doesn't work the same, but when you get your group together and you do an escape room, it's just awesome. So I recommend private rooms. That's why when I got into this, it was my only consideration. Because I tried a bunch of rooms, I tried public rooms, I tried private rooms, and private rooms were the only ones that worked for me. I'm trying to think of if I've played a public room that I've really loved. Yes, there was one in Sacramento. That was a really good. It was a really good public room, and we had fun. The teams meshed, and it was just like it clicked. Most of the other public rooms I've done, and I've done a lot. I've done probably 20 or 30 public rooms, and I keep doing it because I travel a lot on my own. And I jump in, and it's always sort of this weird, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. I might have fun, other people didn't. It's always just a
lot of variables that you can't control.
There's an awful lot that you can't control, and the fact is, what I've seen is no matter what the designers did, they couldn't control it either.
Right.
So I really commend people. It's like, play a room with just your friends. Play a room with just your family. Play a room with just your coworkers. Play a room with just your future coworkers.
Right.
People who you're going to have an ongoing relationship with, that's who you want to play a room with, because that's what's going to happen. Play a room with your future spouse. Highly recommend that.
I always say that with my wife about moving heavy furniture. If you really want to test your relationship, get that couch into a different room, upstairs, because that's really where you get to work. And
exactly.
The spouse, you, and a couch, and you can really get together and figure something out.
You can figure it out. You guys could save the world or realize that you're all going to die.
Yep. That's it.
So, good word to the wise.
And I think one of the biggest variables too, and I don't know if maybe I'm just adding on to your point, but I could see it as public rooms, because then you have your personality issues of strangers, and then how comfortable you got to be with the groups, right? I mean, that's the biggest barrier probably.
It is the barrier. And I mean, frankly, you're out on a date, you guys are trying to get to know each other, you think, hey, we'll do a private room, and then suddenly you're in a room with 6 guys celebrating their bachelor party. And you're like, wow, this is not what I was thinking of. Or you want to do something with your friends. You're like, bunch of guys getting together for a bachelor party. Yeah, we want to go rock this room. And suddenly you got this dorky couple in the room, and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
We all have different perspectives, and we're each coming, and we're both right. It's the craziest thing in the world. We are both right, particularly if we don't take the time to see it through the other people's eyes.
Right.
But when you've got an hour to save the world, you're not tending to have that time to see it through the other people's eyes. And if you're not doing well, you're going to blame it on the others.
Right.
So that's why, in my mind, find a room, play private. It's the way to go. It's the future in escape rooms.
I believe it. Because the one thing I wanted to at least commend you is constantly doing escape rooms while you're all over the place. I think that's a sign of a passionate business owner.
Got it.
Because you're interested in your business, because you really are. With these restaurant people that I speak with, they call it their R&D, where you got to go out to eat and sample other restaurants.
Oh yeah, my R&D budget is not insignificant, and it really is great to go try other escape rooms. I do try rooms that are better, and I'm always trying to figure out why they're better, what got them that extra edge that I think they're better. I do a lot of escape rooms that just aren't quite as good, and I'm like, wow, what are they not getting that could make their room great? And what are they doing that is actually better than us? Even though their thing might not be as good, customer service, whatnot, what thing can we take there that is suddenly going to take our prison and move the prison to the next level? And that's what I like to look for. The other room that people really love in Chicago is the prison. Because the fact is, when you're in a prison environment, it's something that just like clicks for your average Chicagoan. I hate to say it. They're like,
past
we
governors.
know people who've gone to prison. We know we have governors who've gone to prison. Like, prison is a reality of life in Chicago. And I think everybody wants to experience how they're going to escape from a prison and kind of think it through. So yeah, that's what makes this room really popular, apparently.
I could see that. And as you're saying that, it really feels like so much of a psyche. I mean, all these are basically playing off the human psyche and all of our fantasies. And so, yeah, I could really see it as everyone watches those prison movies. I could do that. I could break out of prison. No, it's a lot harder than you think.
Yep.
So what do you notice are people actually like afraid of getting into a prison in a cell?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about fear is it's something that people want to face, but they want to face it knowing that it's going to be safe. So I think that is the draw of rooms like the Prison or the Zodiac, that people know, okay, I'm going to be put in a hard environment. It's fundamentally okay, but it's going to be a hard environment, but I can do this. They're there to help me. We're going to make this thing happen. And I think that's one of the key elements that makes escape rooms work for people, even the ones that are just purely escape oriented. But something that I think Fox in the Box brings that's different from a lot of escape rooms is we're really not so focused on escape. Even though the concept is escape room, for us it's really like the escape is your escape from everyday reality.
Right.
You know, that's what people really want, and that's what we're providing. Yes, you can escape from the prison. Yes, you can escape from the Zodiac killer. But the other escape is you can escape in the form of, hey, I'm escaping the humdrum and I'm robbing a bank. Hey, I'm escaping this and saving the world. These are the escapes that I think people are really looking for. And I know that there are people who are scared. Right. You know, they're nervous about being locked in, being in a claustrophobic situation. We really work hard to make sure that people know it's okay. You know, you're not really locked in. You know, in our prison, there are 2 big green glowing buttons that you press and the doors open. Right. In our Zodiac Killer, there's a green glowing button you press and you're immediately released. So nothing there is serious. You know, we take safety at Fox in the Box very, very seriously. We train our teams, we train all of our employees, we've got security and safety evacuation procedures. We want everyone to have an absolutely delightful time. Right. That is our goal, is that people have the time of their lives in the rooms. They're not going to have the time of their lives in their rooms if they think they're going to get hurt. Right. Right. That's, you know, because you're afraid. Because you're afraid. So if you're a little bit scared and a little bit nervous, you know, find an escape room like Fox in a Box that is very high quality escape room, and they know what they're doing and they're taking care of their guests. And that is what's really going to set you up for a great first time escape room experience. You can face your fears and you can get past your fears. And that's something you can do with us. It's, you know, it's training wheels for life. Right. Or a crazy life.
Yeah. Let's hope not.
Exactly.
I hope not to see this again. Okay. Well, cool. Well, Vince, thanks for giving me the tour of the place. This has been a blast, and I think we got to sort of get your philosophy as to why these rooms are important to you and how they can help people with team building. So
awesome. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to play our rooms one of these days.
I know, I'm going to have to. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Let's get out of the room. There we go.